Bernie Sanders. Fight! My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. And let's talk about the debate. Now, I went to a debate party last night covering the Democratic debate, and I'm going to show you various aspects of that leading up to debate. This is just going to be an overview. I'm going to have additional shows coming up. Today has been a long day because cutting through video footage is not the thing that I love the most. However, that is exactly what will be taking place and what has been taking place for the last couple of days. I'm going to show aspects of it just in an overview. I'm just giving an overview, my thoughts, my impressions. And I'm going to give you my thoughts and impressions just before the debate also and after the debate. So let's start with before. This was me at the debate party, and I got the opportunity to talk to other people at the debate party to see what they thought was going to take place. This is a Sanders debate party, so these people are on Sanders' side. You can see the t-shirts and everything else. Let's hear what they thought. And it's not that I think Sanders did a bad job in this debate, but God knows, you gotta throw a punch. There is no such thing as a bloodless revolution, even if it's just politically.
So this is Jamarl Thomas, host of the Progressive Soapbox. We are here at Capitol Ale House for what is going to be a debate party. I am looking forward to this. I covered the debate last night. Fingers crossed, no copyright strikes. I covered the debate last night. That debate went well. I thought Elizabeth Warren did a pretty decent job in the beginning, but she kind of fell into irrelevance after the fact. When they got into issues of foreign policy, by the same token, Tulsi Gabbard showed out when they got to issues of foreign policy. In those cases, essentially knocking down Tim Ryan, who was pretty boisterous about wanting to have a go at her, in which case she put him down. She put him down like a bad mule. So there was that. So tonight, Sanders is going to be in this race, Biden, and all eyes are on those two, but others are going to have the opportunity to try to, I don't know, I guess get some relevance, get some attention, get some of the spotlight. These are a bunch of hungry animals or panda bears doing what they can to get the limelight and the microphone. Sanders is a demonstratively good debater, and I've seen Biden debate. Biden is not necessarily all that bad in debates either, and he has enough sense when he's going after somebody like Sarah Palin to not make him look too bad. So we'll see. It's a crapshoot. I mean, you have the series of gladiators in the sense of these guys have been doing this for a very long time. Kamala Harris, paging Kamala Harris, so she's still in the race. Beto, I guess he was last night. But we'll see. All eyes are on the A team. Yesterday it was considered the B League. Today it's considered the A team. Stay tuned. I'm covering this at the debate party, so I'm not necessarily going to be doing where you can see the video itself, but you'll see me coming throughout the course of the night. I'm talking about various points in the debate. So, thanks all. Bye-bye.
All right. So that was that was me giving my impression. Now, I'm going to go to various people who were there to get their impression on what they thought Sanders needed to do, or for that matter, the other candidates. I mean, like I made the point, Kamala Harris, paging Kamala Harris. Where's Kamala Harris? Well, Kamala Harris did show up last night. Jesus Christ. When I say Sanders needs to throw a punch, I mean he needs to throw a punch. Kamala Harris took Joe Biden by the throat and dragged him to the woodshed and took the largest hatchet that she could find and put it in his spinal cord. Like, that's what I mean when I say throw a punch. She went after Joe Biden. And by the way, they even gave her the space to go after him, where she went far longer than the 30 seconds. She's like, I'm the only black person on the stage. And it's like, that's going after somebody. And I sat there thinking, why is she Sanders should have been the first person to throw that punch and let Kamala Harris come in after the fact. But he should have been the first person to throw that punch. Not him sheepishly there. He should have said, I was bothered by when Joe Biden went after this. I marched with King. I'm in photos sitting behind Martin Luther King. No, I'm not black, but God damn it, I was bothered by it on behalf of my African brothers and sisters that I've been running around the country with. I think Kamala Harris could have looked at her, all right, take it from here. Kamala Harris would have took him out to the woodshed. Don't sit there sheepishly between the two with your head. It's politics, man. It's blood sport. Let's hear some of the other people who were there give their impressions of what needed to take place in the debate for any of these guys. Like I said, paging Kamala Harris. Was fourth place in regards to the polling. So it's not like she's out of contention. I always thought she was a dark horse candidate in this race. So let's see.
So this is Jamarl Thomas.
This is Jamarl Thomas. I am here with
George Smith.
and we are watching the debate party. We're at the debate party. So what does Sanders...
This is Jamal. I am here with...
Savannah.
Okay, Savannah, I assume you're Sanders supporter?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in a Sanders supporter, what does Sanders have to do tonight to stand out? And not just stand out, what do you expect to take place in this debate?
I think he really needs to come full force with the heavy policy debate the same way that Elizabeth Warren was able to pull that through in last night's debate. In his interview with Margaret Brennan, when he kind of scoffed at her idea of a limited strike not being an act of war, I think he needs to keep that same energy as far as calling out how ridiculous the framing of questions are, how ridiculous, how right-wing everything comes across, and just...
Why would the gay community support you? It's like, are you serious?
Right, exactly.
I expect these will get questions that are kind of, in that weird range.
I think he's going to get questions, questioning, is this country ready for socialism? Are you a socialist? And all these kinds of nonsense questions that just distract from the policies that he's trying to push. So, that's what I see happening.
Oh, your thing is essentially he just needs to be Sanders.
He needs to be Sanders. He needs to bring that. Yep. Exactly. Just point out how ridiculous everything is as far as like the establishment.
Party. My wife, Mrs. Hollingsworth, helped set it up.
Part of the reason why I don't work with the organizer of Sanders is because I don't necessarily think that, I think it keeps confusion now for one, but I think it's a little weird having, if I would rather have an objective point of view and not being a part of it, that type of stuff. What do you think is going to take place within the context of the debate tonight? And what do you think Sanders needs to do to say out? Or for that matter, anyone? Like, Kamala Harris is invisible.
Well, I kind of feel like there's a lot of people here that I don't know who the hell they are.
But Sanders, Biden, those are the main two, Harris. And those
I know, but how many people are going to be on the stage?
Oh, God.
I guess that's what I'm saying, is I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to pan out with that many people on the main stage. Yeah, like cats scrounging for catnip. I'm interested to see how that's going to go. I'm kind of curious to see. Oh, okay, that's it. I'm just excited.
Okay.
So we're at the Bernie Sanders debate party. My wife, Mrs. So the debate is about to start. I think there are about 19 seconds left. Biden has to not be a gap machine. Sanders needs to be Sanders, and he needs to kind of assert himself to some degree. Sanders is a debater, so I don't necessarily doubt that he won't do that. And I would imagine his debate probably will be on point, seeing he wants to be president this year. But we'll see. We'll see. Alright, so the debate is about to start. We have a group with us today, so you can see we have a whole room, and all of these people are in there for Sanders. So let's end it and let's watch the debate. See you guys in a few.
Alright, apparently my volume was off on the last one, but I guess my point was I wanted to give a before and an after without having it be kind of, like changing the goalposts at the end of it. I want you to be able to say, all right, this is what I thought needed to take place, and this is after. There's one other gentleman that I want to give because I get a before and an after for him. And so
the debate is about to start. I think there are about 19 seconds left.
This is Jamal.
So we're at the Bernie Sanders debate party.
this is Jamarl Thomas. I am here with
George Smith.
and we are watching the debate party. We're at the debate party. So what does Sanders, you have a Bernie shirt on, so I'm here with Sanders. What does Sanders have to do to win this particular debate? And not just win the debate, because look, I consider these guys a bunch of hungry panda bears that is doing everything they can to get attention and the limelight. They're 10 of them on stage. What does any of these
guys need to do to get the limelight, but Sanders in particular, if he wants to kind of stand out there.
All he has to do is be Bernie.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Well, you saw Warren last night, and it's like all of those guys were taking Sanders. They was like, how can we pretend to be Sanders? And I thought, he's won the debate. He's won the argument, at least if you're talking about from the way these guys are going. So what do you say? He just needs to be Sanders.
Yes.
What about these guys aping his policies?
Well, imitation is the finest form of flattery. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of people out there that say that Bernie has been ineffective, that he has no accomplishments to show. He has dragged the entire Democratic Party to the left, and as you can see, and by his how many of his policies are copied. Basically, at least every leading, the top tier candidates, they've all had to adopt some of Bernie's policies. Where 2 years ago, it was. It was like, well, this is crazy stuff.
Yeah, right. This guy's a radical.
Yeah. Now it's mainstream Democratic platform.
And you're
stuff.
fighting on that, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the Medicare for All thing is, do you agree with it, not agree with it? But that's the stand.
Yeah.
That's a different thing than this is so crazy that nobody would ever even think about. Like this is different.
You're absolutely right, because it's determining how the questions are formulated.
Yeah.
So yes.
It's a fascinating memory. Dude, thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, all right. So, those are the people in advance, meaning going to the debate, excited for the debate. They're about to watch their horse, Bernie Sanders, do his thing. And I'm going to have several videos covering the debates. But this is just an overview and my impression of the debate. I think I've leaked some of it. You got to throw a punch. Politics is to some degree a blood sport. You got to throw a punch. It's not that I love it. I would love for these guys to be orators and this, this kind of Cicero oration where they're just giving policy and another guy gets up there and they just give policy and they're just battling policies. But that's not the world to which we live in. John F. Kennedy has a debate with Richard Nixon. John F. Kennedy, for the people in the audience watching that debate, most of them agree that John F. Kennedy won that debate. People listening on the radio thought Nixon won the debate. Optics matter. It doesn't matter if you think that they shouldn't use emotion. It doesn't matter if you think that one person shouldn't be strong or weak or that one person should take another person out to the woodshed. It boils down to, what do you do to get elected? And part of the things that you do to get elected is politics. It is not just policy that goes beyond just policy. That also goes into your ability to interact with people and get across your ideas. And part of that sometimes is putting down somebody else's idea. Sanders needs to throw a punch. Now, he did this partially, but it was glancing, and it was done in a way where it almost assumes that the rest of the public knows what he's talking about. He hits Biden on Honduras. But he hits Biden on Honduras in a way where people are like, why is he bringing up Honduras? He's bringing up Honduras because Hillary Clinton talked about working with the government, with the military, for a coup in Honduras. That country, for the last decade, has been a basket case and has been on fire. That was under Biden's watch. Biden, in this debate, hugged Obama, meaning if he's hugging Obama, you can hit him for the stuff that's associated with the Obama administration because it was under your watch. Now, you bringing up Honduras, nobody knows what that means. It's random. Like, it makes sense within a kind of context, but nobody really knows, or most people don't know, that it was under Biden's watch. Biden and Obama. He wants to hug Obama, you got to own it. Another thing, civil rights. Kamala Harris, like I said, took Joe Biden out to the woodshed on that, making the point that, look, nobody missed your issue of civility. Nobody. It wasn't lost on anybody. The issue here is that you're raising the hands of two Klansmen, or people nearly Klansmen, for this process. And she goes further with your relationship with some of these segregationists went absolutely against civil rights, meaning you were working with outright racists to either put black bodies in prison. Strom Thurmond, who she could not go there with that. She wouldn't touch that. She went with busing. Busing was a safe thing for her. And so that's what she pushed him on. I'm the only black woman on the stage. She hit him. She hit him. She should have hit him. He gaffed. A self-inflicted gaffe. He should have been hit for it. Now, for fuck's sake. Blacks vote 90% Democrat. And then you have a Democrat that's raising the hand of a racist in order to get across, working across the aisle or being civil. And it's like, you can't find anybody else to bring that up with, and isn't just a certain degree of respect to acknowledgement of the party to which you find yourself? Come on. I wasn't offended by it, but I know some people who were. So yeah, Mr. Sanders, who marched with King and who was arrested in the civil rights thing, maybe you should hit him on that first and then let Kamala Harris clean up. Libya, never brought up. One of the biggest foreign policy mistakes of Obama's administration, one of his biggest mistakes, never brought up. My point is, look, if you're going to hug Obama and you're going to take certain foreign policy that's going to be similar to Obama, then I can hit you for the hazards and the mistakes that you made. He did bring up Iraq and say, look, those was foreign policy blunder. I didn't vote for Iraq. I pushed it. So fair enough on that point. Attacking the Supreme Court. I like that. I've argued on this channel on more than one occasion that the Supreme Court is a political instrument and needed to be treated as such. And then if a president is in office, a Democratic president, and he does not treat the Supreme Court as a political entity, he will have difficulty. Sanders, bringing up this notion of FDR, says, I won't pack the court, but I can rotate judges. Everybody in the debate party gave a collective, what the fuck? Everybody. Like, everybody's mouth hit the floor. Like, what? Now, I'm sitting there like, yes, I like that. Because they're a political instrument. Why do you think people fight so hard and make the argument for we get the Supreme Court pick? But keep in mind, if this is a independent body, if this body is, we're just reading the law as it is, then you wouldn't fight so hard. It wouldn't matter at that point because you're putting people on who are just reading the law. But that's not true, and everybody knows it's not true. If you're a Democrat or Republican, you put people on who's going to suit your interests, your political interests. You know what they are when you put them on the bench. It's kind of like Chuck Todd or some of these newsmen. It's like, nobody ever tells me what to read. You don't have to tell you what to read. They knew what you were when they put you in there. You were canned quantity. I like hearing Sanders talk that way. It also brings up the FDR thing, where FDR was talking about adding additional members to the Supreme Court, packing the court. That's where that term comes from. So he's bringing that up again within the context of FDR. Middle of the road. I guess my point is some of the stuff should have been directed towards Biden. You, sir, were pushing for a middle-of-the-road approach to climate. We don't have a middle-of-the-road time period. There are only 12 years left. Do you believe in science or not? That's confrontational, but it's dead on. That's the question that you ask. How on earth can you say you believe in science while simultaneously talking about a middle-of-the-road approach? An asteroid is about to hit the planet, and you're trying to find a centrist way of dealing with the issue. I mean, come on. Hit him! Swing! Throw a punch! Marianne Williamson at one point talking about using the power of love. You know what that made me think of? Scott Pilgrim. Have you seen that movie? That movie is my guilty pleasure. Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim, in that movie, there's a part where he's fighting all of these people, these evil exes, and he's at the last evil ex. And Scott does something, and it's like Scott has discovered the power of love, and he rips a sword out of his chest. That's what I thought of when Marianne Williamson said, we're going to beat him with the power of love. I was like, wow. I don't know what that looks like politically, but wow. That's my thing for Sanders. Throw a punch. Yang's point, Yang got off to a bad start. Now, Yang said the microphones weren't turned on sometimes. So they asked Yang, they said, Yang, you want to give everybody $1,000. How do you pay for that? And Yang said, excuse me? He says, what? Which everybody at the end of the debate party laughed, and the people were like, oh. And it was like, fuck, man, you can't do that. But Yang says he couldn't hear the question, so it made it look funny when they asked him the question. Buttigieg spoke well. He spoke well. There's not much to say about it. It's bland, milquetoast. But he spoke well. Let me see. Kamala did well in this. Like, she did decent in this. I mean, ultimately, she ate certain positions, and then in other cases, I mean, the problem is you're a prosecutor. Like, some of the arguments that you make are, they don't necessarily fly. Like, a lot of this stuff was coded in, I know what it is. I've dealt with this stuff in regards to, like, I'm part of the struggle, that type of stuff. It's going through that language. Also, Kamala Harris needs to get the black vote away from Joe Biden. And Kamala Harris was very effective at trying to point that out, meaning she, again, took him out to the woodshed. She's in 4th place right now in the polling. Joe Biden has the black vote. She needs that black vote. How do you get that black vote? You bring that black vote up to speed on Joe Biden's record in working with racists. In fact, that Joe Biden mentioned that allows you the leadway to do so in a way that doesn't come across as just overtly pandering and bringing stuff out of the blue, because Joe Biden brought the issue up himself. She was effective in this debate. And understand what I mean defective. I just mean, look, all of these people ultimately were just trying to get their talking points out. There are, 10 people on stage. All of them are fighting for attention and fighting for the limelight. And in doing so, you have to take certain actions to try to force that limelight. Christian Gillibrand, for example, butting in, kind of like doing the thing that, what's his name, de Blasio did the other night. She wasn't effective as doing so, at the very least, but she wasn't entirely unlikable. She makes this argument about campaign finance, meaning we need to do something about that. I agree with her on that. The thing is, they're talking so generally that you can pretty much agree with pretty much everything everybody says. The question is, what does this look like in regards to policy? There's one point that Sanders made towards the end, though, of all of these people have been talking this way forever. Who does it really drill down into on the stage? Who means it? We're in a world of Sanders. Ultimately, the arguments that are being made from the standpoint of whether you agree or disagree with Sanders. We're in a world of Sanders. Sanders' point was, who's Sanders? If you're going to have this argument, whether, you agree with me or not, but ultimately, who's the person who actually believes it? Who's the person who on day one, when he gets into office, who is a true believer? And if you look at the people on that stage, that's him. And if you really look at it even a little bit deeper, the arguments that are being made here, are you for Medicare for all? Yes or no? Are you for education expansion? Yes or no? How are you going to pay for this? Yes or those questions are based in Sanders. That's the argument that he put forth. That's him dragging the Democratic Party, kicking and screaming to the left with this notion of trying to reinstate them. Whether it works or not is a secondary thing. But damn sure knows he's trying. Let's see, citrus peppercorn. Oh, thank you, citrus peppercorn. All right, I am going to go through and I'm going to show the debates itself, like the aspects of the debate. I want to get into Tulsi taking Tim Ryan to the woodshed. I want to go into Kamala Harris taking Tim Ryan to the woodshed. I want to go into that other random guy who kept screaming, you guys need to leave, because he didn't have the ability to kind of win on its own. The fact of the matter is, if you can't even get out of a primary by beating the people who are in the race, meaning it's so weak to tell the other candidates, you guys are old and you need to leave and you need to put it over to a younger generation. It is for you to take it, sir. Not for them to leave. It is for you to take it. If you can't take it because either you're not popular enough, nobody knows you, nobody cares about you, then that should tell you something. Go home. Go home. I'm going to end this here. And let's go to Tulsi's thing, and then let's go to Sanders' thing. Trudy, even if Bernie is not on the committee, he still be the leader in the political revolution. So, Trudy, that's the interesting part. Sanders makes another point. And I agree with him 1,000% on the secondary point. None of this comes to pass. None of this. You may be talking about the stuff that I'm talking about. You may be talking about education, health, all this stuff. None of this comes to pass without people standing up, screaming for it. If you don't get a yellow vest movement, if you don't get what's taking place in Hong Kong right now, where all these people are onto the streets, flooding the streets, forcing the government to listen to what it's saying, whether politicians are apologizing because of how bad they handle the issue, because they can't even get basic business done because of the number of people that's flooded the streets. Nothing happens. You have dollars or pitchforks, and all sorts of dollars will be levied against him and this idea and the things that he's trying to get accomplished, because it loses people money. Think of it this way. We pay twice as much as the rest of the world for healthcare. Say for the moment they take half of the amount that we get, or that they get in profits, and put towards this. They're not even going to take half. It doesn't even require half. You're just talking about hundreds of millions of dollars against the candidate, because that candidate is going to cut into your profits. From a business sense, it makes all the sense in the world. From a sense of any level of morality, it's horrendous. But politics is not moral. Ultimately, you have competing interests. This is somewhat of a fight of classes of sorts. Sanders' point is none of these people are going to get anything that they're talking about without having a mass of the public standing up, pushing for it. That's his point. And that point is absolutely true. All of those people on that stage can promise anything that they want. None of them are talking about getting the public into the political process. When Bernie Sanders started, he's trying to get millions of people all across the world to get involved in the process. And by the way, if you look at Ralph Nader's book, that's exactly what Ralph Nader's talking about. Getting people pushing on their candidates, on their senators, dragging them before committees or before hearings, because you can compel a senator or a congressman to come to your particular state or city when you're, depending on enough people there. His point is, if you have that many people involved in the political process, that political process will change. That political entity will change. It is not one of those things where you don't have the ability to do it. I often say that our political instrument is rusted, but it's still there. It just requires people to push on it. At various times throughout our history, whether it was Teddy Roosevelt, whether it was FDR, hell, I would even go so far as to say Eisenhower, Republican. Our political instrument to some degree has pushed or moved and changed. I am saying we have an opportunity for an Overton window shift, for a hegemonic viewpoint that is change, not this kind of piecemeal nonsense, but where the instrument itself changes. First time in my lifetime. Brett McKinney, what about Booker owning Google Trends in the South? Really? That's shocking. Mr. Broken-Ass, after Sanders' silence on Assange, I gave up on him. Mr. Broken-Ass, Sanders wouldn't even use his Julians on Twitter. Oh, Sanders wouldn't even use his Julians on Twitter. I don't know what that means. His Julians? You mean he wouldn't bring them up on Twitter? Look, I'm not saying he's not shook. I'm saying he wants to be president. There's a difference in those things. Back in 2016, he didn't have anything against him. But now, he's trying to win. So, at the very least, let's refuse to pay taxes since they don't go to the good things with the tax dollars. I know we're just blowing stuff up, killing it all. And the funny part is they would make this argument that tax dollars can't go for abortion. And they would say that's a moral argument. They would say that's a moral position to take. And it's like, well, okay, I don't want to pay tax dollars because we're spending $1 trillion on blowing stuff up and killing people. Whoa, that's going too far. How's one a moral position? And the other one, I don't want to use my money to murder people. That one, not so much. It's like, come on. You have the best analysis of Bernie's influence and what he has accomplished, Jamal. Great work. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate it. Look, I don't, the biggest lesson, or one of the best lessons I've had in my life was one of the most, probably diminutive things, or not even that epic at all, even though to me it was extremely epic. I hit my, there's a friend of the family who's a close friend with my dad, or used to be a close friend with my dad, grew up with him. And him and I were talking one day, and he tells me, he says, I'm bitching about my dad. I think I'm making this point I don't think he cared, I don't think he liked me, all this other stuff. And he's like, you realize your dad was just a guy. What are you talking about? Your dad was just a guy. He's just like you. He's just like me. He's just a person. Think of the guy who you work with. Your dad is like that. Think of the random person you work with. The dad is like that. You bump into. Your dad is imperfect. He's just a person. He just so happens to be a person who donated sperm to you. And being a person, there are things that he do that you're not going to like. There are things that he does that are wrong, that he wants to get back at your mom for and use you as somewhat of a weapon to do so. He's just a guy. He's a fuck up. Just like you're a fuck up. Just like I'm a fuck up. He's just a guy. I say that to say this. Bernie Sanders is just a guy. To me, he's a person who can get who believes in a certain degree of political change. There are ancillary things that you can hit him for. This is, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. Fair enough. He's just a guy. And from his standpoint and his perspective, when you're trying to get elected to office, there are things that you can and you can't do. There are things that make your chances better or worse. There are segments that you leave behind in order to get greater segments or get a greater share of the populace. It sucks. It's politics. There is no way of getting out unscathed. There are certain positions that you're playing at chess where you make a move. There are downsides of the move. There are upsides of the move. You just try to maximize your upsides. This is no different. It's no different. It's gross. It's ugly. It's sausage making. My question is basic, though. Does he believe what he's talking about within regards to the policies he wants to accomplish? The answer is yes. With those policies, if he can get those policies accomplished, get the lower segment of this population better off? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. There are things I knock him for. But ultimately, that's the horse that I'm riding, because that horse actually believes in the things that he's pushing for. And even though he's not going to get it to as far as I want it, he moves the dial in such a way that it changes almost the gravity of the party of sorts. I mean, for fuck's sake, when Obama was running, you could barely even get Obama to whisper a public option. Now these guys are using a public option as their fallback position. Wait, we don't need Medicare for all. What about the public option? We can do a public option. Think about the world that you're in and the world that you're inhabiting. Do you think this world happened just magically? It did not. It did not. It did not. It did not. Hit them all you want, but come on, let's be fair. Curious one. Agree Slumdella 87, but he made some big mistakes. He could have capitalized on some opportunities in spite of the format and the high visibility candidate. That is true. I agree. Ed Clint, I'm solid. I'm always thinking about penetration. Yeah. Such is human. Such as being a man. All right, I'm going to end this here because I have other videos, and this video has gone long. He wouldn't use Julian's name. Oh, I see. Well, I mean, Mr. Birkenaz, this is not... See, sometimes when I say things, it comes across a particular way. Let's play with objective reality for the moment. Objective reality. You have an objective. What is that objective? Your objective is you want to be president of the United States. Why? You want to be president of the United States, unlike a lot of other people on stage, because you believe that you can push this country in a way that would raise up the standard of living for the people at the bottom of the income scale and do good things. I mean, allowing people to go to school for not having to pay for it, meaning we as a society believe that this is the best interest of our society. And so we support the things that are in the best interest of our society. Do we have the ability to invest in ourselves? In the same way you invest in new technology and everything else, that same thing is true for us, for human beings. And I would argue it's more true for us because we can blow shit up and we can set things on fire and we can hit people over the head and mug them when, as human beings, we did not have the things that we needed when we were growing up. We are the ultimate instrument. And that's the thing that we need to be paying attention to. So yes, we can invest in technology, but we also need to invest in us. Medical care for us. I do believe these things are human rights. Because so far as a human being goes, so far as that society goes. If those human beings are not in good shape, nor will that society be in good shape. The rich can create their little places and hide behind their fortresses. But ultimately, I am having this conversation with the rest of us. In the same way they can support their own interests, we can do the same thing and cobble together and support our own interests. And we have a political instrument that allows us to do such. Sanders' argument is that we should use that political instrument to work within our own best interests. Now, you want to affect that agenda. You want to get elected. You see yourself as the second coming of FDR. How do you get elected? Do you get elected screaming Julian Assange's name? Do you get elected, going balls out at the Democratic Party? Not within the context of the party. Maybe if you go into a third party. But when you get elected going to a third party. My argument is this. The world looks differently from being in that office. And that's not necessarily a rah-rah Sanders. I would argue that's an absolute. Now, you can say that's a wrong perspective. You could say that something should matter more. You can say all those things. But the question becomes, if you want to get elected, do you do that stuff? Like, I guess I look at this, if you're looking at it from Sanders' perspective, you can say, I don't have a choice. I can't do that. I mean, what's my political upside in doing so versus what's my political downside in doing so? My political upside is nil. There are going to be some people that approve of me doing this and like me doing this, but ultimately the people who I need to get elected will not. I'm sorry, dude. You could be a saint and be sitting on the sidelines, or you could be a president and you could try to get shit accomplished. I mean, I disagree with this one. Love you, by the way. The great content, great viewpoints. Oh, thank you, man. Was Sanders jail Democrat war criminals? Oh, good question. Good question. I gotta be honest. I don't think any of these guys would lock up anybody, and that's sad. Like I understand your point, but the last Democratic president wouldn't even lock up a Republican war criminal. You know what I mean? Like, can we really put something on Sanders? Look, what is your objective? Start there. What is your objective? And is your objective emboldened by doing the Assange thing? Look, I'm saying this to somebody who has done Assange coverage and get like no views on that coverage. But I do the coverage because I think it's important. The last thing I want is Assange to kind of recede into the background and everything else. He's too important. I think that. And I take that position as somebody who's doing news. It's pertinent and it's relevant to me. I hit Sanders for not bringing up Assange's name, while simultaneously looking at it as, if he does, they will hate his guts. Because the moment that you bring up Assange, you get into that Pandora's box of Assange revealed that the Democratic Party was cheating Bernie Sanders. That's radioactive. That's fucking radioactive. Jailing war criminals is my litmus test for voting. But nobody does it! I agree with you. I agree with you, Mr. Broken Ass. But nobody does it. Nobody does it. Nobody locks up war criminals. There are not enough people to accomplish the goals in politics. No, there are. I disagree with you on that. There are. My hardest task, the hardest task in the job that I do is getting people to acknowledge that it's possible. Possible is important. Acknowledging it is important. Being able to see it is important. It is vitally, vitally, vitally important. And I'm talking to someone, I had kidney failure at 17. Think about that. 17 years old. You're just starting life. And recently my wife and I did this kind of world trip. And this is like after various times of being near death and all this stuff. Like a very difficult life from the standpoint of medical stuff. I negotiate my life in the way that I do. I've gone bungee jumping. I've gone around the world, whitewater. I've done all sorts of shit. And I mean, I guess my point is this. You don't take a position that you can't do something. That gets you nowhere. Like pessimism is not a survival trait. I full well believe that. You at the very least get into your mind what you want to accomplish. And at that point is, how do I do it? But the first point is, you can do it. You never get to that secondary question of how do I do it if you don't at the very least acknowledge that you can do it. Whether you believe you can do it or not is irrelevant to the process. Reality is irrelevant. And I know that sounds weird, but in this case, perspective is king, and perspective matters all. Don't get me wrong. Saying reality is relevant is hyperbolic. It's too strong. But there needs to be an objective viewpoint of what do I have at my disposal to try to get this accomplished? And it is more beneficial to assume that you can do it, even if you fail in your task. You assume. Because more often than not, there are things at your disposal that you don't even know you have at your disposal that can allow you to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. That's not just on an individual basis. Reality doesn't just stop with the individual. We're talking about a society standpoint. A society can do the same. When an organized society gets in their head that they want to do X or they want to do Y, they can do it. Your political instrument is not a fixed thing. It's not even real. It's a malleable mental conception of sorts. You use it to the degree that you want to use it to accomplish what you want to accomplish. If you say that your society is going to provide healthcare for all, you can provide healthcare for all. You might not can do that and spend $1 trillion on the military, but you can do it. This is the richest country on the planet. You can do it. You can have a different world. It is imperative, however, that the people believe it. It's imperative they believe it. Function follows belief. All right, I'm going to end this because this is going too long and I'm getting preachy. If you guys enjoy the content, please consider liking, sharing, supporting through PayPal or Patreon because they hit these channels. I wouldn't be surprised if this video get demonetized. Using this, putting fight in titles probably the thing that's going to demonetize it. So definitely, guys, I appreciate all the support that you guys give. Coming up is going to be the specifics within the context of the debate themselves. Probably starting off with Tulsi Gabbard taking that dude to the woodshed. I can't use woodshed for both. She put a knife in him. No. She took him out to the woodshed. Kamala Harris put a knife in Joe Biden. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Giovanni Levina, Kazakhstan says no more ballots for bankers. Oh, bailouts for bankers. But bailouts for people. Yes, Iceland locked up bankers who almost tanked the economy. We should do the same. Yes. And we can. That's my point. These things are not impossible. They're just difficult. It's a difference in those things. My wife, she wants to have a kid. And there's certain medical stuff that she needs to deal with before she can have a kid. And she's like, I'm never going to have a child. And it's like, you don't know. There's a difference between impossible and hard. Hard you can do. Impossible is something different. Hard you can do. It takes an organized thought of how to do it. Don't get me wrong. It even takes a plan on how to do it. All that stuff. But at the very least, it takes an original conception that you can do it. Do you realize when Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, came out of retirement in order to do the new Stewart, the new segment, the Star Trek thing? Do you realize what his rationale was? He says we've become so cynical as a society. And at the very least, Star Trek, the original series, had it as this is the height of human beings that we can conceive of. And under this model of what is the epitome of human culture that we could think of, if we were talking about a spacefaring society where humanity got its shit together, what does it look like? And to present that out there as an image for people to aspire to of saying, this is possible. When the only thing that you have is a bunch of cynical shit that's on the media, well, people look at that's the world. You have this thing where art reflects life, which reflects art. This kind of reverberation, hall of mirrors of sorts. But the moment that you yank yourself out of the hall of mirrors and you put something out as a standard, that is something that people sometimes try to accrue towards. How many NASA engineers do you know ended up watching Star Trek and wanted to do something for this thing of space stuff based on what they saw and this higher aspirations? It matters. What do you think about matters? What do you believe matters. It matters immensely. And if you believe you can have a different world, the world changes. I say that as an absolute. All right, guys. Think so.